האם זה באמת סגולה בדוקה? הסגולה ללמוד בזה?
Good evening, Erev Tov, Dobrav Yetzer. We are in the Zera Shimshon on Parsha Lech Lecha, and we're going to do Os Hey, section number 5. Before we begin, let's take a look at two psukim, the first two psukim in Parsha Lech Lecha, extremely well-known psukim. This is first two. Vayomer Hashem el Avram, and Hashem said to Avram, Lech lecha me'artzecha, go for yourself from your land, umi moladitecha, and from your birthplace, umi beis avicha, and from the house of your father, el haaretz asher areka, to the land that I will show you. Of course, we know from later that Hashem tells him to go to Eretz Canaan. Next pasuk, ve'escha legoy gadol, and I will make you into a great nation, va'avarechecha, and I will bless you, va'agadlo shemecha, and I will make your name great, ve'heye beracha, and you will be a blessing. So we'll see that the Zera Shimshon is going to focus on that second pasuk about making Avram into a great nation, and the other parts of that pasuk. Okay, let's get right into the words of the Zera Shimshon, Parsha Lech Lecha, section number 5. Medrash Rabbah. The Medrash Rabbah says, Ve'escha legoy gadol, on the words we just read, and I will make you into a great nation, Oso ha'uma, that nation shekosuf ba, that it's written about it, Kimi Goy Godol, because who could be such a great nation? A'amid mimcha, I will establish that nation from you. So the Medrash Rabbah continues in a moment, but for this first part, it takes the words Ve'escha legoy Godol, I will make you into a great nation, and it comments and says, what does it mean, a Goy Godol? I will make you into a great nation. It's the same nation that is called great. The word gadol is used to refer to the Jewish people. In Parshas Va'eschanon, you can see in the parentheses and sefer Devarim Perek Daled Pasuk Zion, Kimi Goy Gadol, who is this great nation? And that's a reference to Bnei Yisrael. So therefore, when it says Ve'escha legoy gadol, I will make you into a great nation, that great nation is the nation of Bnei Yisrael. Continuing in the Medrash Rabbah, Amar Rabbi Berechia. Rabbi Berechia said, Ve'etencha, and I will set you, Va'asimcha, and I will place you, Ein Kosav Kan. Those two words are not used here in this pasuk. Ela ve'escha, but rather, and I will make you. Meaning, Rabbi Berechia is noting that the Torah could have used other words instead of I will make you. It could have said, I will establish you, I will set you up. But instead it said, I will make you. Why? Keshe'ani oseh oscha b'riah chadasha. Only once I make you into a new creation, at pareh v'raveh, only then will you truly be fruitful and multiply. Ad kan Lashono, until here is a quote from the Medrash Rabbah. So Rabbi Berechia, focusing on the word ve'escha, and I will make you, says that Hashem told Avram, only after I make you into a new person, and we'll see what that is a reference to, is to Hashem changing Avram's name from Avram to Avraham, and also giving Avraham the mitzvah of bris milah, of circumcision. Only after those two things happened, and Avraham could be considered a new person. He has a new name. He has a new body in the sense that his body was transformed by the mitzvah of bris milah, of circumcision. Only then could he give birth to Yitzchak and begin the Goy Gadol, begin building the great nation of Bnei Yisrael. That's the Medrash Rabbah. Zera Shimshon comments, V'hu tamua, and this is hard to understand. What problem was bothering the author of this Medrash Rabbah? That he felt the need to bring in the statement made by Rebbe Berechia. Now, we have to pause for a moment to understand that question. The way that the great Talmidei Chachamim, the way that the Gemara itself works, and the great Talmidei Chachamim who came later, one of the things they always are sure to notice is a second opinion. If a first opinion is brought, or a first statement is made, a first explanation is offered, and then a second explanation is offered. So the according to the methodology of the Gemara, and according to the methodology of all of the great sages who followed after the Gemara, is to ask the question that Zera Shimshon just asked: how come the Medrash Rabbah felt the need to bring that second opinion, the view of Rebbe Berechia? Why couldn't it just stand pat, so to speak, with the first explanation of the word ve'escha? And it felt the need to bring in the Rebbe Berechia's point, which is a different way of understanding ve'escha, and I will make you. Why did the Medrash Rabbah feel the need to do that? There must have been something missing. There must have been some question that occurred to the author of the Medrash Rabbah, or the authors of the Medrash Rabbah, to make them say, here's one explanation of ve'escha L'goy gadol, namely that Hashem was saying to Avram, I'm going to turn you into a great nation. And which nation? The nation that will be called a great nation later on in the Torah and sefer Devarim, which of course is Bnei Yisrael. And then the Medrash added the view of Rebbe Berechia that ve'escha means Hashem said to Avram, I'm going to change you, I'm going to make you into a new person, and only then will you be able to become the progenitor of a great nation. So what was missing? What was the question? That's the Zera Shimshon's concern here. Next paragraph, top of the next column. V'nakti ma'shekosav hakliyokar. We will start by bringing in what the famous commentary Kliyokar wrote. Ve'escha, and I will make you, v'chule, etc. Again, our pasuk that we started with. Zehu she'omrim v'chule. This pasuk that starts with ve'escha, this is connected to what Chazal said. You can see that the Kliyakar commentary is quoting from the Gemara in Psachim that connects our Shmona Esrei when we talk about the God of Avraham, the God of Yitzchak, and the God of Yaakov. The Gemara over there connects those words in our Shmona Esrei, in the beginning of our Shmona Esrei, to this pasuk. And here's how the Kliyakar explains it. Ki Avraham haya legoy gadol yoser mikol ha'avos. Avraham was considered the founder of a great nation more than the other avos, meaning more than his son Yitzchak and more than his grandson Yaakov. Ki kol mashe yotze mi Yitzchak u'mi Yaakov. All of the descendants that came from Yitzchak and Yaakov, misyaches gam kein la'Avraham. They also trace their lineage back to Avraham. So all of the descendants of Yitzchak and Yaakov also trace back to Avraham. So they have nothing. They don't have any descendants that also can't be traced back to Avraham. Nosaf al Yitzchak veYaakov, but more than Yitzchak and Yaakov, Avram had more descendants than them. Ki yotze mimenu Yishmael, because he also, before Avram gave birth, before Avram had a child Yitzchak with Sarah, he had a child Yishmael with Hagar. Uvenei Keturah, and after Sarah died, the Torah tells us that Avraham married a woman named Keturah and lists the children that he had with her. So therefore, we see that Avraham is a greater Av, a greater forefather, a greater progenitor, because he not only is the forefather of the Jewish people, he's also forefather of all descendants from Yishmael and from the Bnei Keturah. So that's why we start with his name in Shmona Esrei. Va'avarechecha, and I will bless you. That's the next statement in the bracha here in Lech Lecha. Zehu she'omrim Elokei Yitzchak. This alludes to the fact that in Shmona Esrei we say God, we're talking to Hashem, the God of Yitzchak. Kihu nisbarech, because he was blessed. Next page, top column on the right. Bimomon, with money, with wealth. Yoser mikulam. Yitzchak was wealthier than the other avos, than his father Avraham and his son Yaakov. He was wealthier than both of them. Shenemar, as the Torah tells us, Vayizra Yitzchak. When Yitzchak lived in the Eretz Plishtim and Gerar, in the land of the Plishtim, it says he planted, and when it came time to harvest, his harvesting brought in 100 times more than what was expected from the planting that he did. And that's an example of the fact that he was amassing great wealth, which the Torah there relates, that Yitzchak became so wealthy that Avimelech, Avimelech, the king of the Plishtim, came to Yitzchak and said, "You need to leave. You're becoming wealthier than all of us, and it's creating great jealousy and great turmoil in my kingdom, and you need to leave." And so that's an example of how wealthy Yitzchak was. Va'agadlo shemecha, and then our pasuk says, Hashem says to Avram, "And I will make your name great." That's connected to Elokei Yaakov in Shmona Esrei, the God of Yaakov. Ki HaKadosh Baruch Hu kara leYaakov El, because Hashem called to Yaakov, he referred to Yaakov with the word El. El is one of the names of Hashem, but it can also mean, it can also mean mighty one, great one, one who is divine-like. Ad kan lishono, until here is a quote, v'ayin shom, and you should see there in the Kli Yakar. Let's just go back for a moment to this last statement. The reference to Hashem referring to Yaakov with the word El is based, as you can see in the parentheses, is based on a Gemara in Megillah, in which Chazal teach us that a pasuk that we normally translate, Yaakov set up a mizbeach, and vayikra lo El Elokei Yisrael. We normally translate the pasuk to say Yaakov set up an altar, and he called the altar, or he davened at the altar to Kael, to Hashem, Elokei Yisrael, the God of Yisrael. That's how we translate the pasuk. But the Gemara says there's another way of understanding that pasuk, that Elokei Yisrael, the God of Yisrael, called Yaakov El, and that's what is being referred to here as an understanding of Va'agadlo Shemecha. What did Hashem mean when he said to Avram, "I will make your name great"? He meant, I will not only make your fame spread, but I will make your grandson Yaakov's name so great that Hashem himself will refer to him with the word El. And of course, we know that Hashem changed Yaakov's name to Yisrael. Okay, so let's pause here. The Zera Shimshon said he wanted to begin his explanation of the Medrash Rabbah by bringing in this statement of the Kli Yakar, and the Kli Yakar took the Gemara, wanted to share this statement from the Gemara in Psachim about how the words Elokei Avraham, Elokei Yitzchak, and Elokei Yaakov connect to the pasuk from at the beginning of Lech Lecha that we read. And so we've seen that. We don't yet know how to put the pieces together, but we now have that building block, so to speak. Next paragraph. Uvazeh yivoar, and with this it can be explained, ve'escha legoy gadol, the words, "and I will make you into a great nation," that the Medrash Rabbah focused on. Lefi shemimenu yotzu bonim, What does it mean, I will make you into a great nation? Because from Abraham there came out many descendants, Yoser Mikol Sha'ar Ha'avos, more than any of the other forefathers, more than Yitzchak and more than Yaakov, as the Kli Yakar explained it, because Abraham not only had the descendants of the Jewish people, which Yitzchak and Yaakov could also claim that they were the avos of Bnei Yisrael, but Avram could point to the descendants of Yishmael, who and also the descendants of the Bnei Keturah, the sons he had with Keturah. Ela de Koshe, but there was still the Medrash still felt there was a problem. Lama Amar Godol. Why did the pasuk say, "I'll make you into a big or a great nation"? The haloshan Godol ne'amar be'echus. The term Godol, great, usually refers to great in quality, velo bechamus, and not in quantity. V'havalei lememar legoy rav. If what the Torah wanted to say is that Avram would have more descendants than Yitzchak and Yaakov, then it should have said, I will make you into a large nation. I will make you into a very populous nation, but not Goy Gadol, not great nation, which would be a different point. It'd be referring to how great Bnei Yisrael are in terms of quality, but here we're saying that that Abraham was greater in terms of numbers. Ubavadai sherotza lirmos leuma Yisraelis, by saying Goy Gadol, the Torah certainly wanted to hint to the fact that Abraham was going to be the progenitor not just of any nation, but of a truly great nation, leuma Yisraelis, the Jewish people, the Jewish nation. Shekosov ba, it's written about them, Kimi Goy Gadol, who is such a great nation like the Jewish people. So that's how the Zera Shimshon understands the first statement in the Medrash Rabbah. Let's understand that. Make sure we understand. Let's pause to make sure we understand that. The Zera Shimshon says the Medrash Rabbah started off by focusing on Eschola Goy Gadol, I will make you into a great nation, and it was bothered. It had a question. Why did the Torah say I will make you into a great nation, meaning Gadol? Why didn't it use a different language like Rav? I'll make you into a very multitudinous nation. I'll make you into a nation that has a lot of people. Why did it say Gadol, which implies this is an issue of quality in addition to quantity? And it answered and said, because the Medrash Rabbah said, because the Torah wanted to allude to the fact that Abraham was going to be the forefather of the nation of Kimi Goy Gadol, who is such a great nation, and that was a reference to Klal Yisrael, and that's what it was coming to teach us. Next paragraph. Va'adayin kosher. But the Medrash Rabbah felt that there was still another question. She'umazo, that this nation of Bnei Yisrael lo yotzaso me Avraham levado. It did not come from Avraham by himself. Rak af mi Yitzchak u'mi Yaakov. The nation of Bnei Yisrael, of Klal Yisrael, also came from Yitzchak and Yaakov. We can't look to Avram and say, you're the only forefather of the Jewish people. Avraham, of course, had Yitzchak. Yitzchak, of course, had Yaakov. And we view all of them as the Avos. Klal Yisrael came out of all of them. Shahare gam heim nikroim Avos. Yitzchak and Yaakov are also called the forefathers of Klal Yisrael, of Bnei Yisrael. The Im Kain, and if so, lo yitochein, it's not appropriate, lomar, to say, top of the paragraph of the column on the left. It's not appropriate to say Uma shekosov ba, the nation that it's written about it, v'chule, etc. Ani ami mimcha, I will establish from you the nation that it's written Kimi Goy Gadol, I will establish from you the mashma mimcha davka. It seems to say that the Jewish people descended only from Avram Avinu specifically, and not from Yitzchak and Yaakov. And that is a problem, that the second problem that the Medrash Rabbah had with the words in our pasuk. And now, next paragraph, Mishum Hachi, it's because of this second question, Ba Rabbi Berechia. Rabbi Berechia was brought in by the Medrash Rabbah V'Seretz, and he answered, Ve'etencha v'asimcha v'chulei. The words, I will set you up, or I will place you, the Torah did not state. She'im lo haya mishane shmo, because if Hashem had not changed Abraham's name from Avram to Avraham, lo haya bolo Yitzchak v'lo Yaakov. Yitzchak and Yaakov would not have descended from him. V'lo ha'uma shel Yisrael, and not the nation of Bnei Yisrael. So Avram would not have had, he would have had Yishmael, and he might have had the Bnei Keturah, but he would not have had Yitzchak and Yaakov and been able to be the forefather of the Jewish people if it wasn't that Hashem said, I'm going to change your name and I'm going to change you into a Bria Chadasha, to a new creation. V'hakosov bolo dianu, and the pasuk is coming to teach us. Sha'al yedei hamasa asher yaseh, through the action that Hashem took, bishmo, to change Avram's name, uvegufo, and shel Avram, and to change Avram's body by giving him the mitzvah of bris milah. Yigrom, Hashem, by doing this, caused sheyavo'u mimenu Yitzchak v'Yaakov, that there would come from him Yitzchak and Yaakov v'chol ha'umma Yisraelis, and all of the Jewish people. Ve'oz yiyeh poreh v'raveh, and only then, only after Avram's name was changed and his body was changed and he had the mitzvah of bris milah, then he could give birth to Yitzchak, and Yitzchak give birth to Yaakov, and then the three of them can be viewed as poreh v'raveh, the forefathers who were fruitful and multiplied and brought the Jewish people into the world. So the Zera Shimshon has here now answered his original question as to why the Medrash Rabbah gave an explanation on Ve'eschol Goy Gadol, in the words, I will make you into a great nation. And then after its own explanation, brought in the comments by Rabbi Berechia, which took things, which was a new approach, a new explanation. And why did it do it? Because the Zera Shimshon teaches us, because the Medrash Rabbah was bothered by the fact that the words in the Torah seem to indicate that only Avraham was the forefather of the Jewish nation. But of course, Yitzchak and Yaakov played a pivotal role as well in being forefathers of the Jewish people. All three were necessary. So Rabbi Berechia was brought in to answer that question and say, yes, that's true. Yitzchak and Yaakov played their vital roles in the process, but if it wasn't for Hashem changing, if it wasn't for Hashem saying, I'm going to change you, Avram, I'm going to change your name, and I'm going to change your body and give you the mitzvah of bris milah, that will change your destiny, and those steps are the steps that will allow you to become the person who could have a Yitzchak as a child and a Yaakov as a grandson, and bring the future Jewish people and set the roots and set into motion the beginnings of the Jewish people. V'od efsher, and it's also possible to explain another explanation as to what Rabbi Berechia was coming to teach us. Rabbi Berechia hirgish kushya. Rabbi Berechia might have felt a different problem. Deman le malon, because who can tell us Dahai ve'eschol goy gadol, that these words, I will make you into a great nation, Romez al ha'umma shel Yisrael, can only be hinting to the Jewish people. Dilma, perhaps al Yishmael. Maybe when Hashem said to Avram, I'm going to make you into a great nation, he was referring to the nation of Yishmael that came from Yishmael, Dichsiv Beinami, because it's also written by Yishmael, Unisativ Lagoy Gadol, and I will make him into a great nation. When Sarah told Avram that she wanted him to send away Yishmael, and Avram had a real problem with this, Hashem said, don't worry, I'm also going to make him into a Goy Gadol. I'll make your son Yishmael into a great nation. And so therefore, that could be what the Torah is talking about when it says, Ve'escha l'goy gadol. Avram, your son Yishmael will be a great nation. Mishum hachi teretz Rabbi Berechia. Maybe because of this possible misunderstanding, Rabbi Berechia said, no, the hoil dichsi ve'escha. Since the Torah said make you and chose that lashon of oseh to make you, which alludes to the fact that Hashem says, I'm going to change you, Avram, into a new creation, al korchach, we are compelled to say sheromez al umma Yisraelis, that it was hinting to only Bnei Yisrael, not to Bnei Yishmael, because Avraham had Yishmael, had his son Yishmael with Hagar before his name was changed, before he received the mitzvah of bris milah, meaning before Hashem could say E'escha, before Hashem changed Avram and made him to a Bria Chadasha as if he was a new person, he had already had Yishmael. So then what did Hashem mean? I'm going to change you and then you'll be the founder of a new nation. That means it's referring specifically to Bnei Yisrael, not to Avram's earlier son, his first son Yishmael, and Yishmael's descendants. So the Zera Shimshon has started off, as he often does, with an excerpt from the Midrashim, from the Medrash Rabbah in this case, and he posed his question on the Medrash Rabbah as to why it brought two explanations, and it didn't just give us the first explanation and why it felt the need to bring in the second view of Rebbe Berechia. And then the Zera Shimshon provided the Kli Yakar and other building blocks, and then put together his answer for us as to what Rebbe Berechia was adding, what that teaching was coming to teach us about Hashem changing Avram through the name change and through bris milah to enable Avraham to have a Yitzchak and a Yaakov, that all three of them together could be the avos, could be our avos, could be our forefathers who built the beginnings of the Jewish people. Yasher Koch for joining us this week in the Zera Shimshon. We look forward, God willing, to learning together again next week in the Zera Shimshon on next week's Parsha.